All right, we're going to learn this week the Maimer Parshas Mishpatim on page 3. This Maimer was said, similar to this week, it was Shabbos Mevarchim Adar, but the Maimer was said Chav Vav Shvat, Tav Kov Samachei, 1805. And the Maimer was written by the Alter Rebbe's son, Rabbi Meyer. We have most of the Maimarim, as we said many times, was written by the Alter Rebbe's brother, the Maril. We have, of course, many exceptions, but this Maimer was written by the Alter Rebbe's son, Rabbi Meyer. Ve'ela Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. So the Alter Rebbe talks about the first two psukim in the Parsha. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to the end of the Maimer. But the Maimer, if you look ahead, so first he goes and explains a general idea of Ve'ela Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem, and he discusses that in great length, as we'll soon see. And then the Alter Rebbe explains specifically based on that the pasuk Yisikna, and then the continuation of the pasuk of Sheishanim Yavin. The first mitzvah in the parsha, this week's parsha, is talking about the laws of Eved Ivri, a very strange phenomenon. A person, either they sell themselves or Beis Din sells them, and there are laws how to treat them, how long they can be sold for, etc. So that's the revealed aspect of Torah, the nigla aspect of Torah. This is the laws of Eved Ivri, an Eved which is a Jew. Of course, we know that there's an Eved Kenainis, which is an Eved which is not a Jew, and for him there are different laws. But over here we're talking about the laws of an Eved, which is in the pasuk it's talking about the laws of an Eved who is a Ivri, who is a Yid. But of course the Alter Rebbe is going to give us the deeper insight in this mitzvah, that this mitzvah is actually alluding to every single Yid for the most part, and what lies in the description of how it connects to every Yid is we're all avadim, we're all servants of Hashem. But the Alter Rebbe is going to say there are a group of Yidden, of neshamas, which are not, their description is not by the term Eved, but by the term Ben. They're children of the Eibishter. So of course, begs the question, we know that there's we're all, if you look in the second chapter in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe talks about the Nefesh Elikis, and he brings the pasuk B'ni B'chir Yisrael, B'ani Matim Lavai Elekechem. So of course there's the idea that Chassidus brings concepts which are general and generalized and more specific, meaning in a general sense, we're all Banim LaHashem. And the idea of the fact that we're Banim LaHashem, the Eibishter's children, is there to convey a certain truth that exists. But when you look at it more specifically, so when we want to break it down further, so within that category itself of neshamas, so there's a neshamas which are connected more with the category of Ben, and of the Eibishter's Ben, child, and then there's the neshamas which are connected with the category of Eved. What makes the distinction between Ben and Eved? That's what the Alter Rebbe is going to address in the first part of this Maimer. But before we do that, the Alter Rebbe is going to point out a seemingly inconsistency in the pasuk, which really begs for the explanation that we're going to explain. Okay, Ve'ela Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. We just finished Aseres HaDibros, last week's parsha, and then the Eibishter tells Moshe Rabbeinu, these are the Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem, that you need to place lifneihem before them, that they need to be placed, they need to be ingrained in the Yidden, all these Mishpatim, all these laws. And the Torah then continues a bunch of laws that the Torah speaks about, and they all seem to be, for the most part, very rational. They're not shatnez and things that are paraduma, things that are irrational, which are also known as chukim. But these are the mishpatim, the rational laws, laws of damages, laws of guarding, being a watchman, a faithful watchman for your fellow, and what are your responsibilities, etc. If something happens, that's all the psukim, the psukim in this week's parsha. Kisikna, the pasuk continues right after Kisikna Eved Ivri, when you purchase an Eved Ivri, and then there's the laws that are connected with that. So the Alter Rebbe asks, seemingly the words, there's inconsistency in the pasuk. Why? Because in the pasuk, Ve'ela Mishpatim Asher Tasim Lifneihem. So what's Lifneihem? Before them. These are the laws you need to place before them. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu is addressing all of the Yidden. Mashma Lashon Rabbim, which is understood that he's talking to all the Yidden and teaching them the laws. But right after that, when he goes and he enumerates the laws, the specifics of the laws, which psukim, he says kisikna. Sikna, when you will purchase, that's Lashon Yachid, that's the individual. So it seems inconsistent. If the pasuk, the consistency should be kisiknu or kiyiknu, when they will purchase Rabbim, he's talking to everyone. So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain right here that kisikna, right away, that inconsistency in the pasuk opens up for a whole different understanding of these psukim. That here, who is he talking to? The Eibishter is talking to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu is doing something that he's acquiring, he's giving something over to the Yidden. And because he's talking to the Moshe Rabbeinu, he says it in a singular form. It's not the way the mitzvah is, the Parshas mitzvah, the simplicity, the simple understanding of the mitzvah. So it's talking about everyone that falls into the category that he's going to purchase a servant. So it should be Lashon Rabbim, it should be plural. But because he's talking to Moshe Rabbeinu, so Moshe Rabbeinu is an individual when Moshe Rabbeinu purchases. What's the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu purchasing? Moshe Rabbeinu is giving something to the Yidden that the Yidden themselves cannot get on their own, and it requires Moshe Rabbeinu to instill that in us. That's the Torah describing. How is that? The Torah describes that, this idea that Moshe Rabbeinu is instilling in us in a way of like you're purchasing something. Moshe Rabbeinu is purchasing. The idea of purchasing, as Alter Rebbe says later, is when you purchase something, you're not creating something new in the item that you're purchasing. It's a transfer of ownership. The item is in one domain or in one possession, the possession of the seller, and then it gets transferred to the possession of the buyer. The item itself, nothing changes in the item, but it's a transfer. Moshe Rabbeinu is doing something that brings about a certain transfer within the Yid. He's revealing something. He's bringing something to light, bringing something to the surface. What is Moshe Rabbeinu bringing to the surface? That's the idea of das. So it's not a new idea. It's not a new concept, meaning that Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us something that we don't know. He also, but that's not what we're referring to here. We're referring to here something that we know already, but that the way we relate to it, the way it becomes real to us, that's Moshe Rabbeinu bringing that to the surface. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is known as a shepherd. As we learned in other places, in other memorim, the idea of a shepherd is it sustains the sheep. Moshe Rabbeinu is sustaining us. What is this he's sustaining? So the Alter Rebbe will explain that every Yid is a maimin. He's a believer. We're called ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim. Believers, sons of believers. What is the idea of belief? Belief is that something which is not comprehensible, something which is beyond our understanding, we connect with that concept, we connect with that idea in a way of belief. We believe it. What's the challenge with emunah? The challenge of emunah is that even though we connect with it, but it's not real. It's not truly connected with us. We don't feel it. It's not on an experiential level. How is that? How do we see that in a? How is this illustrated? The Gemara illustrates this by a ganif, who before he steals, right, he davens to Hashem that he should be successful in his thievery, which is there's no bigger contradiction, the antithesis of from one side stealing, which clearly Hashem says not to steal, and the other side asking Hashem that he should be successful. He believes in Hashem, otherwise he wouldn't be davening to Hashem. So that antithesis of stealing and davening to Hashem is possible. It's possible in the realm of emunah, because it's not something which is internalized, not something that he really connects with and feels in a true sense. So the idea of emunah, that Moshe Rabbeinu is bringing that emunah and making that a real experience within us. And that's kisikna, that's Moshe Rabbeinu who is purchasing, he's giving, he's making real this idea of emunah. Okay, that's the concept that we're going to elaborate on. The chisikna koyal Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. Chisikna is referring to Moshe Rabbeinu. The koyad delil minei, and it's referring, the pasuk chisikna is alluding to the pasuk prior, meaning the first pasuk of the opening of the parsha. Hainu mashakasav ela mishpatim ashatasim, that these are the laws which you should place. Who is placing it? Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom dafka. It's referring to Moshe Rabbeinu. So Yasim HaMishpatim Lifneim, you should place the Mishpatim. V'hainu, how do you place the Mishpatim? How, in which way is Moshe Rabbeinu placing the Mishpatim? Ayidei Kisikna Avadivri. So in other words, their connection with the Mishpatim, with the laws of the Torah, are in a way of Kisikna Avadivri. So Kisikna Aved Ivri is coming to quantify the pasuk prior to it. The pasuk prior to it is general. How do you do it? How is this done? Kisikna Aved Ivri. Which is obviously not the simple understanding. The simple understanding is that it's not quantifying the pasuk before it. The pasuk of Kisikna is the actual laws. And we're saying that Kisikna is quantifying how is the Mishpatim, the laws, how is that Lifneim, is it instilled in a pneumistic way, in a way that is deeply, it transforms the person, and it touches them deeply within, that's through Kisikna Avedivri. So that requires obviously an explanation. So the Alter Rebbe goes and explains. It says in the pasuk, "V'nasati esav b'shatcha levemtacha." We say it in Shema. Who's speaking? V'nasati. So this pasuk is in Parshas Ekev, which is in Sefer Devarim. Sefer Devarim is Mishnah Torah, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu opens up the book of Devarim. And Moshe Rabbeinu begins to speak to the Yidden, Ve'elu Advarim. And V'nasati, he's talking about himself. I am giving. Now we know, Chazal tell us, that Mishnah Torah, even though Moshe Rabbeinu said it, but it was Shechina Metaberes M'Techreinei, just like a prophet, and even higher than a regular prophet, who was speaking prophecy. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Shechina was talking within him. So when Moshe Rabbeinu says V'nasati, he's referring to Hashem. But the simple V'nasati is talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is giving, it says, when asati esev besotcha levimtecha. Obviously, the Eibishter, the simple understanding is if you keep Hashem's mitzvahs, then Hashem will give you sustenance. Everything will work perfectly. There'll be the rains, the early rains, the late rains, your grapes and your all produce and everything will have ish tachas gafne like you had by Shlomo HaMelech, the times in Eretz Yisrael. You said you came back from Eretz Yisrael. This is, everything would be in a perfect state. That for what? The Gashmis is so that we can serve Hashem without any worries, without any difficulties, without any challenges. If you listen to the mitzvahs and you do the mitzvahs, here it's alluding to V'nasati Esav, Moshe Rabbeinu speaking, that Moshe Rabbeinu is giving the Esav. He's giving grass to who? Levemtecha, to your animals. Who is the animals? So the simple understanding is the animals. That you'll have to eat and your animals will have to eat. But over here, where the animals are referring to a level of neshama, which is called animal, which is called behema, as we'll soon say, as we alluded to in the introduction, and Moshe Rabbeinu is sustaining that neshama. So this requires, we need to explain this. The Alter Rebbe says the Indian is follows. It says a pasuk in Yirmiyah. V'zarati is Beis Yisrael, zera adam v'zera behema. So just like you plant a seed in the ground, and we've had this pasuk many times to allude to different ideas that Alter Rebbe explains. Over here, v'zarati is Beis Yisrael. Beis Yisrael refers to neshamas, and the neshamas are sown. They're planted, just like planting. You plant a seed so that it should grow. So too. In the spheres, the idea of planting comes from the Yesod, the sphere of Yesod, and it says Ur Zarua Latzadik, Ur Zarua, the which is Zarua, which is sown Latzadik. Tzadik refers to Yesod. We had it in the Maimarim regarding Yosef. Yosef is the sphere of Yesod, and the Yesod is giving to Malchus, to the Nukva, to the this is Knesset Yisrael. There's two seeds. There's Zera Adam and Zera Behema. Sheyesh Beis Madrigas b'Neshamas Yisrael. There are two levels of neshamas. There's a neshama which is called Zera Adam, and a neshama which is referred to as Zera Behema. What's the difference between these two levels of neshamas? So the Alter Rebbe, you see the first paragraph here, he talks about the first one, and then he talks about the second one. Ha'alef, the first, which is Zera Adam. So these both are alluded to. Both of these types of neshamas are alluded to by Yirmiyah when he calls them Zera Adam and Zera Behema. Ha'alef ema neshamas hagvois me'id v'maylo madrega. So these are very high level of neshamas. V'hei manikroim Zera Adam. Shehei manishamas nimshu m'chinas Adam elyon shal kisei. So you have. We know, we've learned many times regarding the Merkava, the chariot of Yecheskel that Yecheskel saw in his vision. And Yecheskel saw the whole Seder Ishtalshalos. He saw the Malachim, and he saw the different types of Malachim, and he saw the chariot. So you have the using the euphemism of a chariot, a mashal. So he saw those animals or neshamas, Malachim rather, that were in front of the chariot. You saw the chariot itself, and then you have on the chariot, you have the kisei, and on the kisei you have an Adam, Sha'ala kisei. All of these levels Yecheskel saw. So the Zera Adam, these neshamas come from a very high place. It comes from a place which is Ala kisei. There's an Adam, Sha'ala kisei, which Chassidus explains, refers to the spheres of Olam HaAtzilus. Shenim shebechinas adam elyon shalakis. Dichsiv nasa adam b'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu. V'hainu neshamas da'atzilus. V'hem anikroim banim. So those are the neshamas of Atzilus, which are referred to as banim. As we said, more in general, all neshamas, but specifically there are a group of neshamas which are referred to as banim. Masha'enki neshamas debri yitzir asiyah nikraim avadim. V'zeo, and that's what we say in the davening or Shoshana. We say im kivanim im ka'avadim. Kivanim refers to the neshamas, a higher level of neshama of Atzilus. And the Eved is a lower level of neshama. But here we're talking about the level of neshama, which is called Zera Adam, V'hainu. So it's called the Zera Adam. What is the idea of Zera Adam? That just like the mashal of the difference between a person and an animal, what's the difference that we're focusing on? The difference here between an animal and a person is the idea of das. An animal doesn't. A person has das. An animal doesn't have das. Kach elu anishamis yesham das gadol belikus. So why are they called banim? Is because they have das in alikus in the Eibishter. Or pirish das. What does it mean das? So ein otzolei ma'idiyah levad ela b'chinas hargosha mamish u'kamesh yizbar. So you see das, which is the main theme of this Maimer. The Alter Rebbe begins by telling us that what is das? Das is hargosha. So we said before, in the concept of das, you have many different things, many different points. Over here, the Alter Rebbe emphasizes what is the idea of das. Das is hargosha, the feeling, the experiential. This is connected to you, that you actually feel it, not in an emotional sense. That's because otherwise you just crossed over from intellect to emotion. So it's not an emotion. So you have to right away, you have to clarify. Now when we talk about das, we're not talking about an emotional experience. But das is connecting, feeling that that it's real. When someone learns, you learn about things that are bad for you, this is a das on a very simple level. Obviously here we're talking about das and a leikus, but at the beginning, just to understand, when you learn about something that's bad for you, you read about it, and you learn about it, and you even can be shown the different images of the way it looks before or after, or whatever, however the subject matter is explained. And nevertheless, right after it, you can engage in the exact thing that you were just told is detrimental to your life. I mean, you don't have to go too far. Smoking, right? We know how bad smoking is, and there's all the studies that show all the different things, and you can read about it. Not only that, it says it right on the pack. It talks about how bad it is. It's known to cause A, B, C, whatever it is. Nevertheless, right after you read it, or it's right there in front of you, you take a cigarette, and you light up, and you smoke, right? So it's not about not understanding. It's about the fact that the information is abstract. It's information, like all other piece of information. It's what you do with the information. How much is it real? Is it something that is real for you? That's when it begins to make a difference. That's when it actually dictates a different type of behavior. So when we talk about hargosha, so that you can't classify that. It's not about the feeling. It's not now all of a sudden you love or you hate, or you have fear, love and fear. It's the way you relate and the way you connect with that information that you're processing. Das is the way you relate to that information, the connection that you feel with the information is you feel it, you sense it, and once you sense it, then it's not about now. Oh, I want to do it. It automatically requires, if someone sees if something's so real, there's a cup of poison on the table, and he doesn't want to commit suicide, so obviously he's not going to drink it. It's not that he has to tell himself. There could be something that's poison that he's told that it's, it causes all these things. So nevertheless he does it anyway, because what he knows and what he does is two different things. But when someone actually sees it, when it's so real, he senses it. So obviously he's not going to do it. It's not I want to do it, I'm not going to do it. It's because he wants to live. So the desire of life is much stronger. The second type of neshama is Zarabehima. The second level of, we said from Yirmiyah, two types of neshamas. So the second one is Zarabehima, which is the neshama of Biyah, which is all the neshamas of our generation. Neshamas da Atzilus and Bnei Aliyah Shem Muatim. So the neshamas of Atzilus is Bnei Muatim. As we see, as the Alter Rebbe brings, the Tanya has brought in the Gemara, that these Bnei Aliyah, they're very special neshamas. There are very few. I feel even in the earlier generations. But the second level of neshama, Shem neshama Shem das kol kach belikus, the neshama which is called Zera Behema, which lacks das. Doesn't mean that they can't understand godliness. They open up a mimer, they can understand. Seichel v'asaga means they have chachma and bina. The pisvarim and pisefrim, whether it's pisvarim or pisefrim, hasaga avana gdela ech shakadosh baruch hu mechayim mahave akel shel gdulase in cheker. They understand the idea of the Eibush is the mechayim mahave, and they understand the gdulase in cheker, the afla, that the Eibush is unfathomable. Ach she'ein ze b'chinas das v'argosha benafshe. They don't have it in a way of argosha. L'chein nikraim behema. That's why they're called behema. Shabehema yesh lam riyu shmiya. Behema has, he sees, the behema sees, and the behema hears. Rak she'en lo das. The behema doesn't have das. So kachu b'chinas neshamas elu she'en ben b'chinas das b'likus. They lack the das. And as the Maimer continues, ki sikna eved ivri, Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that reveals, that instills das within every yid, and that's what the pasuk is alluding to. Ve'ela Mishpatim ki sikna eved ivri. That's again one nugget of this Maimer.